Okay, welcome to another episode of the Rugby League Outsiders set of 6, where we share the good, the great and the newsworthy of Rugby League outside the heartlands. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl, and on this week's set 6 we'll be talking about a South London club celebrating 20 years of Rugby League. England v France is back on the agenda, and there's a huge fallout in League One.
Okay, we're going to launch straight into it then, Karl. There's a little bit of unrest in League One. A couple of teams that are kind of going at it. Lots of friction occurring off the pitch, just as much as there is on the pitch. So fill us in.
Yeah, 100%. And Keighley Cougars are at the epicentre of this, as they usually are, to be honest with you. Yeah, so this week, Andy Maisy, Rochdale Hornets chairman, and Ryan O'Neill, the Keighley Cougars chairman, had a bit of a Twitter spat, I think is probably the way of putting it, right before their fixture as well, which really made it interesting. So, this came about, I think Ryan responded to something about Nigel Farage on Twitter, and then the Rochdale Hornets chairman basically jumped in and said, I've had enough of your political nonsense online, really. And then there was a bit of backwards and forwards. And I don't know if you've seen it, Craig.
I have seen it. It's quite an interesting story. This is exactly the kind of story that I love to read because, in years gone by, it was all like the gossip columns and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not one for the take a break, but I love a bit of gossip on social media. And this is exactly that. Now, obviously you can read online about the facts and all this kind of stuff, and maybe we'll link to the initial article from in the description below. But kind of my take on it is there is a lot of politicization. Can't even say the word.
Yes.
Of the game and the team, including the kit, the bar, the clubhouse, everything. You look at everything at Keighley now, and it's very political as an outsider. Now, I don't know what the general feeling of the average Keighley Cougar fan is right now, but I know if it was my club, I would just struggle to get on board with it. Not with the overall goal of what's being said. That the trans rights, respect trans rights, the LGBTQ stuff. The pride shirt, all this kind of thing. I don't mind the messages that's coming across. What I do mind is that it's just in everything. It's the core. It's like the lettering of Blackpool Rock. It just runs through every aspect of it.
Yes.
And I don't necessarily like that. And I think there's a huge quiet majority. I'll give you a chance to talk in a minute, Karl. There's a huge giant, silent majority in this country that is kind of just accept, is putting up with this, not really saying much, but it seems to me like every pressure cooker, a little bit of steam starts to come out, and I think this is what's happened here. And I think people are just, a little bit tired of it. Hand in hand with that, I'm going to talk about social media later on with Williams Weekly. Is the fact that if you're in a position of influence, and you can argue that an owner of a rugby league club is. The people are certainly interested in your opinion and look to you for how to act and how to think and that kind of thing. You've got to be a little bit careful and maybe have some separation between what's happening in the game on your social media and what you make actual public. And so, interesting story. I've got my own kind of thoughts on it. And, what about you?
Well, I thought it was just quite hilarious, to be honest with you, that just seeing two chairmen basically having a bloody argument on Twitter. Look, Twitter's there for people's own opinions, isn't it? And they both have the rights to make their own opinions on Twitter. But I think when you start bringing it into the actual organisation, the actual club, it's a little bit different. And I think you've got to respect, you've got to respect the actual club itself. I thought it was quite funny when Andy Maisy, I think he said to him at one point, he said,
you condescending little prick.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Or words to that effect.
Yes, I think the chairmen have got to be careful if they're putting their own message out there. They've got to. It's not a good look for the game, especially when they're arguing on Twitter of the things that I don't necessarily or anything to do with the game, but then it got picked up by the whole rugby league community. Did make the game interesting though, because they were due to play each other the following day, and Keighley were currently top of the table, joint points with Oldham. Needed a win to keep themselves top of the table, and Rochdale went to Keighley, got the draw, and caused some serious damage to the club. And there was a little comment by Andy Maisie after the game that basically said that's basically a win for us, that is.
Of course it is. I mean, because whatever way this unfolds now, for me, I think Andy Maisie sat there going, I'm happy with all the decisions I've made, and now this has unfolded, I'm happy. I think Ryan O'Neill, he's kind of lined himself up that he could end up with a bit of egg on his face, and so, I like them. Let's get more. This is more stuff for us to talk about. You know what I mean? This isn't entertainment.
This isn't the only the Twitter meltdown that happened in League One this week, but I'll get onto that story in a bit. There was more news though concerning Keighley Cougars. A source close to the Midlands Hurricanes has sort of notified us that there's been an approach made for Mark Dunning, the head coach of Midlands Hurricanes, by Keighley Cougars. Thoughts on that?
Two thoughts. One is this is business, you know what I mean? This is where it unfolds. However, I think there are sometimes some underlying tactics. If someone makes an approach and then the club are like that, no, then that should be it.
Yeah.
There should be no round the back, you know what I mean?
I'm led to believe that that's not what happened, but we'll carry on.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that's business. Just do business in an ethical way, especially if you put yourself out as some kind of political states person, as we've already spoke about. But my other thing, and this is the best thing, is that we know that Mark Dunning settling into the Hurricanes didn't go without a hitch. It was tough to come down to the Midlands, and then the season didn't finish particularly well last year. The season is going much better this year.
Yes, 100%.
And this suggests to me that Mark Dunning is happy, and I like that. I like that because he is an asset to the club. He's brought some great stuff and some good stability and some real interesting wins. Some happy lads at the Hurricanes. So the upside is that it seems to me that he's here to stay, and that's only a good thing. Yeah,
great for Midlands Hurricanes, and they are in that playoff position now. They picked up a good win against North Wales Crusaders this weekend. So good to see that Mark's happy. The Hurricanes are doing well, and we'll move on to the League One table in a bit.
Okay, so into the next story then, bit of positive news. And last week we broke the news that
Anglian
Vipers were applying to become members of League One. We've got a similar story this week.
Yeah, so it's been officially confirmed that Bedford Tigers have also formally entered the
application process.
Application. They've submitted an application to the RFL to enter League One, along with Vikings. So there was rumours originally. There was about 12 clubs that had sort of showed some interest in entering the rugby league pyramid, but just the 3 teams have submitted the full application. So we've got an interview with Chairman Rob Ashton now.
Rob, do you want to start us off and just tell us what's going on down there?
Hello, guys. It's no secret. It's been pretty well publicised now that we are one of the 3 clubs in the running for the League One spot for the next couple of years. So a lot of hard work's been going in, a lot of conversations, a lot of sort of tick box exercises and working through process and applications. And I've just been a busy boy.
So Rob, just talk me through what point and what signals were you kind of picking up on that now's the right time?
I think the fact that we've got so much going on at the club and there's so much that's established now. We're not behind the 8 ball with a lot of the things that need to be done. We've got things up and running. We've got people in places running them. We're not spread too thin resource-wise. We could always do with more, obviously, but we are capably running all of those sections, and they're kind of running each other independently. They've all got their own sort of subcommittees. So the club structure is really strong. We've invested quite heavily this year in in the medical side of things. You know, we brought somebody in who has aligned us a lot more with the medical. I forget what it's called.
The protocols and things like that.
Yeah, protocols. Yeah. So, you know, we felt like we were in a really good place. And then they announced that they wanted to bring in a new side. And we thought, well, look, I'd like to think that behind the scenes and back room, we're pretty well set for it. And, you know, it's a logical next step. And we just thought, you know, let's take part in the process and see how far we get. And it could be really exciting, and it's certainly generated a lot of interest locally. It's generated a lot of interest on social media, a lot of positive comments, a lot of negative comments, as always seems to be directed at, you know, quote unquote expansion clubs. But,
yeah,
you know, I don't expect that a lot of those people will know what we are doing and what we've got going on down here, how big we have become. The network that we've built within the sport down here, the things that we run and help facilitate for the sport down here. So, yeah, I think we're in a good position, but we're not being naive to the challenges and, you know, what might lie ahead. So,
yeah, Rob,
there's a lot of work still to be done.
Yeah, you mentioned that there were a little bit of negativity aimed at you from certain aspects of rugby league, which, you know, we always get, don't we, when there's a new team from outside the heartlands looking to push into the professional pyramid. One thing I've got to kind of ask you about is, well, I don't need a definite answer, but obviously League One is a very expensive league to enter. Basically, geographically, teams are spread all over the place. You know, financially, have you got the backing to be able to, you know, to enter the professional pyramid?
Yeah. So, you know, I just mentioned that we've been having a lot of conversations. One string of those conversations is certainly to do with funding, sponsorship, investment. There's been a lot of interest in it.
Yeah.
But then I'm not, you know, naive enough to think that, or to understand that talk is cheap sometimes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've had meetings, I've got more meetings. This week is pretty busy with meetings. So, I'm going to be talking to, a couple of people who have shown more than a sort of a glancing interest in what we're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And hopefully we can tie down a couple of things. But I said from day one, like, it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna make a rod for our backs. Like, if we got all the way through the process and we then got the nod and we thought, you know, we don't actually feel like we can do this or reach it, or it's not going to be beneficial for us, the town, the region, the sport, you know, then we'll look to, I don't know, we won't go ahead with it because, you know, we don't want to be the next rugby league failure. You know, if we were going to do it, we want to bring something strong to the sport. We want to bring something sustainable to the sport. So yeah, we're very conscious of the landscape. Central funding is pretty small. You know, probably just about covers the travel costs. There's going to be some monster travels out there: Cornwall, Cumbria, Newcastle.
Yeah.
You know, the local games are going to be the ones up in Yorkshire and Lancashire. So, you know, that says something, like you say. So, yeah, we're not naive to the financial challenges, and we want to make sure that we get that right. And like I said, not make a rod for our own backs with it.
Yeah, Rob. So what's the current process then? You've formally submitted an application. Do you know when you're going to hear anything back from the RFL, and what sort of the time scale is really?
Yeah, so we've heard back. We got we've obviously been contacted by them since we had the application accepted. They've got to come out and do a facilities visit. So, you know, they'll come out and check out what we've got. Does it reach the criteria? What needs to be put in place if it doesn't? I assume sort of a progress plan of how we get to there if it's not in place. So that's probably just a little bit of diligence from the RFL. But, that's going to happen in the next, when are they coming? Towards the end of next week. And then process after that is we've got to do a presentation up in Manchester and sort of showcase what the club is about and I suppose what we've got and how strong we think we'll be and what our forecasts are for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. And then we find out in September, but then it's an incredibly short turnaround to be ready to go in January, February time. There's a lot to do and there's a lot that, you can put things in place, but a lot of it's on speculation until we get the spot.
Yeah.
That's just presenting another challenge to whichever club gets it. Because 4 months is not a long turnaround, is it?
No, not at all. Rob, what about the feeling amongst the players? I mean, what are the players kind of saying? What do you think they're feeling right now?
There's a lot of excitement, and I think we've attracted 2 or 3 players in who lived. So, with Scholars folding towards the end of last year as a League One side, we picked up 2 or 3 of their boys just because they lived closer to us. So instead of dropping into their Southern Conference League team, they came and joined us. And they'd caught wind that we were looking at doing this as well. So they kind of wanted to be a part of that building process. I don't think people are naive to the fact that, we're going to have to build 95% of a new squad. Or people are going to have to start turning up to training and improving. There's a lot of excitement around the club generally. People are aware that they won't be in the League One side, but they want to help and they want to be a part of it. And they're excited to see it happen. So,
Rob, just if let's say you're successful, and we really do hope you are, which club that's in the current League One would you be most excited to play, or would you most look forward to playing against?
Good question. Newcastle. Yeah, that's a good night out.
That's a great night out. Yeah.
Cornwall. That's a good holiday destination.
Yeah. But that just shows the distance involved in the league.
Yeah, it's mental.
Two extremes there.
Yeah, it does. There's some cracking grounds now in League One, aren't there? So Oldham are back playing at Boundary Park.
Yeah,
Keighley, if they can regenerate Cougar Mania, would be a good day out. And then you got Midlands playing at the Alexander Sports Complex in Birmingham, which is a stunning facility. So, yeah, there's some exciting days out in there for sure.
Rob, is there anything we should have asked you that we haven't asked you, or anything you wanted to get across?
There's a listenership that you guys are generating. I think there's clearly interest in non-Heartland areas. If there's people out there who are localish or feel that they've got something or energy that they could bring to what we're trying to do, I'm more than happy to listen, whether that's players or administrators or whoever, investors, sponsors. Very keen to have, serious conversations with people because, like I say, this can't just be, I don't want this just to be a narrow-minded project. This has got to be done right, in my opinion. And in order to do that, I want to cast that net far and wide and see if there is interest out there from people who are fans of the sport or fans of professional sport, live sport, whatever it is. If they think they can add value, then absolutely get in touch with us.
As always, interesting to talk to people that are behind the clubs and to get their take on stuff. And brilliant that we've got those 2 clubs now in that area that applying for League One is quite exciting.
Outside the traditional heartlands, obviously it's going to be difficult for either club. We both know the awful amount of money that needs to be spent to keep a club in the professional game. There's not a lot of money that filters down, so hopefully they can be successful, and I wish them all the best of luck, really.
Okay, moving on then. Another Twitter, I suppose we should say X, meltdown, Karl. Fill us in.
Yeah, Nick Gregson, who is a Widnes Vikings player, was...
Why you got a smirk on your face?
Because he's...
Carry on.
just some of the comments I read on this weekend. Absolutely brilliant. Nick Gregson is a current Widnes Vikings player, played this weekend. Former Swinton Lions player, played for Swinton last year, helped them get promoted. There was basically a document, a piece of paper, something that was...
There was a hit sheet.
It was supposed to be kept private.
It was like a team hit sheet, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically. Was photographed, and it basically got out there onto Twitter over the weekend, and it was from the Swinton dressing room with a noose around his neck. And it's basically said something like bully him, or I've got it up on screen now, you can take a look at it. So this came to Greg's attention. He was less than happy about it, and went onto Twitter, as players do these days, and he called it out basically, saying how unhappy he was with it. And there was also alleged shouts, should we say, from the sideline to target his shoulder or something along those lines, because I think he's been carrying a bit of an injury for a while, and that was a bit of inside info that Swinton had. So I think first place we should discuss players carrying injury as the opposing side. Do you take advantage of that? Was that not in the spirit of the game?
Do you know, I think there's such a deeper thing to this. Being a former military man, and I think, what a privilege we are in society right now, where we can make this such a big deal. Like, if you look at any aspect of nature, right, a lion will pick out the weak, sick, from the herd of zebras to take down, you know what I mean? It's very primal. Every aspect of nature does this. Every country will do this. Like, what's so special in rugby league where somebody can't go, right, okay, we've identified a weakness. So what we're going to say, right, listen, guys, everyone just run at Bevan French because everyone else is slower than him. Do you know what I mean? So just run. We're not going to do that, are we?
No.
The inverse is you're going to say, well, don't kick the ball to Bevan French. Why people do. Maybe, I know he reads a game and it's hard not to. But you kick a ball to Bevan French, you've shit it, right? At any level. So, the inverse is that if we identify a weakness, then you've got to target that weakness. This is just like bloody, it's part of the game. And the thing about the noose, and this is one of my issues with politicising stuff and changing the way that people talk and, and what words mean, is that all of a sudden, what we're expected to do now is, though they've got this effigy, if you like, of a player with a noose around the neck, and we're supposed to accept that that they really wanted to, like, tie a noose, like, take it out onto the pitch, put it round its neck, and then haul him up into the rafters of the stadium and actually publicly hang him. That's not what they're saying. It's just a symbol of target this guy, right, and he's no longer going to play a factor in the game, and that's what it is now. Unfortunately.
Yeah, but, right, if you're a professional sporting organisation, you wouldn't see this come out from Manchester United or...
Of course you would.
No, you wouldn't.
Because you would. It has. There's been leaks like this since time began.
There's somebody somewhere at that club should be going, hang on a minute, you can't be printing stuff like this in case this gets out in the wider world, because that'll cost him his job, that will.
Whose job?
The Rochdale, no, the Swinton head coach. That'll cost him his job.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
And then that's what I think's terrible. I think that's disgusting that he loses his job over that.
Really?
Yeah, genuinely. If we were in Iran, where people...
We're not in Iran, mate, right?
No, exactly. This is my point. If we were in Iran and people were actually getting dragged out of the house and hung off cranes, right, fair enough, you've got a point. We're not.
Yeah.
We're not in Iran.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody's publicly getting hung in the UK. Therefore, this is tongue-in-cheek. It's just a symbol to target this guy on the pitch, when no one's out to freaking kill each other or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's part of the game. So take it in that spirit, instead of doing this race to the bottom to be the most offended and thereby you win. It's just shitty tactics. Now, don't get me wrong. Bullying is not right on any level. Is this bullying? It's open to interpretation. My interpretation, and this is what people are. People are not. What they're forgetting is they're not putting. There's a part of the statement that's not being made. In my opinion, that's we're just like you. It's not right. No, it's not right in your opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're having your Ricky Gervais moment here, right?
No, I am because it's just like I said. We're such like I don't want to get too much into this, but there were my previous occupation, like I've put a lot into creating or to maintaining a society, where we have the privilege of freedom. You know what I mean? And then for people to abuse it because they've got that freedom. It just kicks me in the nuts, and this is why I have a bit of a rant about it.
If that document was public,
what document?
Well,
you're calling it a document.
The image,
the image, right.
the whatever. We haven't seen the whole thing, have we? So, if that, I'll call it image, was public, then I would say, this is.
It wasn't public, was it?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'd said this is a bullying tactic, but the fact that was meant to be kept private under closed doors. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it was bullying. However, the club needs to be very careful that this sort of thing doesn't get out into the wider world. It's something for behind closed doors, that, isn't it? Yeah,
but it's watering down our great game.
No, it's not, because you can't be making images like that public.
Why?
It's fucking wrong.
What images like that? It's a cartoon noose round.
Right. Okay.
What's so bad about it? Genuinely, I'm. Is it? What's so bad? You don't know. You just know there's this societal bloody agreement that's out of order.
Right.
You can't. You explain to me why it's so bad. You can't do it. There's just this norm that's been created in society that you just know. I don't know why. It's just not right. Why? Tell me why. Because if you can explain to me why and give me a good reason as to why, like if someone said, because what's going to happen is, there is a gang of people out there that are going to take this literally and they're going to hang this guy off the stadium. Right, okay, fair enough. Let's not do that anymore.
No. Obviously, but it's just not professional.
Right.
It's not professional.
Okay, now all right, I can accept that. However, to come back at you, it was in the changing rooms, and I don't think there's much more private area in rugby league than the changing room with the team in there. Now, like you said, if it was distributed publicly and it was like sent in the
match day programme,
or posted online, tagging this guy in, now that's very different. But a hit sheet and every team's got a hit sheet. Every team do the homework, as teams go on, and they will have a hit sheet, like the young lad that comes in, you know what I mean? It's his debut, pepper him with up and unders, you know what I mean? Just like Abdul, just bomb him,
Run at Williams, he's got bad eyes, you can't see.
Yeah, to have a pop at Karl, he has more cards than Father Christmas. You know what I mean? Every team has this hit sheet, and I don't think there's any team out there that is whiter than white. I think this has happened with every game at all levels. Do you know what I mean? And to do this race to the bottom, I'm the most offended, and it's just move on.
Next tackle then.
I did that move on.
No, I'm just going to bring up the Betfred League One table because we spoke a little bit about League One. So here's the current table. Keighley Cougars currently sitting top of the table, but that's because they've got a game in hand over Oldham. So currently sitting on 23 points, so I would expect Oldham.
Well, no, they ain't got a game in hand. They've played an extra game.
Yeah, they've played an extra game. So Oldham have got a game in hand, currently a point behind them. So if they win that, they will go back top of the table. Rochdale currently sitting in third.
That draw, that's going to be massive for the season.
They will be. Puts them a point above Hunslet, and then you see Midlands Hurricanes with their win over sixth place North Wales Crusaders have put them into the playoff position. So they have got a game in hand though. Yeah. So they've played an extra game. Workington right down there in seventh.
Yeah.
So you got two clubs outside the traditional heartlands behind one of the old stages working to new. Their season's going from, it's just getting worse at the minute.
Yeah, look, I'm just looking at there. The thing that that stands out to me, Hunslet, points difference, minus 63. You look at Oldham, plus 421,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, massive points difference. So, I think this draw is going to be, like, pivotal in this whole season now.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll move on to the next tackle.
Okay, so another really good positive story, and that's a southern club that are celebrating 20 years, 20-year anniversary.
Yeah, South London club Brixton Bulls are celebrating 20 years of rugby league in the capital. It's incredible to see, and they're going to have a big party this weekend to celebrate everything that's great about Brixton Bulls. We had the privilege to speak to Rick from Brixton earlier on in the year, didn't we, Craig? And they're a fantastically well-run club. Yeah,
incredibly. You know, we had them down as like possibly the most diverse club.
Yes,
in rugby league, and I don't just mean ethnicity. I'm talking about like backgrounds and all societal levels, whether it's money, income, you know, just everything. And Brixton kind of have it all just by the nature of the population down there in South London. But really, really rich history in those 20 years. You know, and a really well-run club. Rick is a very, very smart man. I could listen to him for hours. He's got some great ideas about stuff and talks really well. So definitely a podcast, you know, in our back catalogue that you should go and check out.
Yeah, so they're celebrating at the Great North Wood Pub this Saturday at 7:30. Any past players that have played again for Brixton, you're encouraged to turn up, bring some old memorabilia, shirts, programmes, anything that you've got. Go along and celebrate the club with them. It's a great milestone for them to achieve, and wish them all the best in another 20 years' time.
It also mentions cake here, Karl, so...
right. So
probably...
That your ears pricked up then.
Yeah. And they've got over 450 photos that they're going to kind of put on display or whatever. So, you know, people go down and find themselves in those pictures. So massive trip down...
memory lane.
Memory lane there, and a little quote at the bottom saying Rick loves a speech. So maybe that's Rick. Maybe it is Rick that's doing the speech there. If it is, good luck. Regardless, good luck in your party. Moving on to the next story then, and back to internationals. We hammered this last week, and you've got some more news, Karl.
Yeah, so England are to play France again next year, which is, like I say, we really dived into that last week. There was a number of aspects that we weren't happy with. The wider rugby league community wasn't happy with, and I think the RFL have kind of accepted the fact they got it wrong with the England-France international. And listening to Rodri Jones' statement, was he the MD for Rugby League Commercial? He's kind of admitted that. He said, look, you know, we haven't quite got that right. But next year, the fixture's going to be back on, which I'm glad to see. But it's going to take place in Perpignan next year.
I think not quite got that right is very, very, very... I don't know what the word is, but I mean, you know, his actual words were lambasted. You know what I mean? So the rugby league community went at him at this. You know, every channel on social media just erupted, and this it was terrible coverage of an international. You know, the peak of our game. Really,
I don't think we'll ever see an international game played as a curtain raiser. For Featherstone ever again, do you?
I don't think it'll happen again.
Yeah, so he did say that it was a disappointing portrait of international rugby, and 100% echo that. But I am glad that they're playing France again next year. Yeah,
that's the right step. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The right thing in the right direction. He also said that, you know, it's going to take a couple of years to establish this as to what it needs to be. Now, I like the fact they've acknowledged it. They haven't tried to, you know, just there were a news story I saw online where they were sort of, you know, they wouldn't release the viewing figures on Super League Plus and all. I felt like they were trying to
brush it under the carpet.
Yeah, just like smooth over it. It's nice that they've publicly acknowledged it and, you know, kicking on from there. I don't quite agree that this is like a long-term fix. I think to polish it and have something that's brilliant is a long-term fix, going to take a few years, but based on... Like, it just can't get any worse, can it?
Yeah, one thing I would touch on is in his statement, which I wasn't too impressed about. He basically said the domestic calendar is what it is, and it's not going to change. And sometimes if you don't change something, it's never going to get any better. And basically, meaning by that is we're only going to have that 1 week in the middle of the season to play an international, and it's never going to really get any better, is it? Unless we put more emphasis on the international game. That's my opinion, anyway. And we know why that's happened is because the Super League clubs they can't afford the drop in revenue. But in my opinion, is if the international game doesn't grow, the domestic game is going to stagnate and it's going to stay where it is.
Well, there's a couple of things there. Just going back to things like you say, long-term fix, but come on, just give us a game we can watch easily. Make it more accessible. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if there is an increase in salary cap and we get more depth at clubs, would that allow international players the ability to cut away for a couple of weeks and give us more of a window? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because we could have, we do it for the Challenge Cup. We have periods where, the Challenge Cup's on and Super League games aren't playing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, would that have an effect? Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know enough about it, but it just seems to me that we're kind of, all right, this is, there's a line here. It won't change. So this is what we've got to deal with. Why can't it change? If we have more depth at clubs, Super League games could go on in some guys.
Here's one for you.
Go on then. So
they play loop fixtures, don't they, at the minute?
Yeah.
They play essentially each club 3 times. I think I've got that right. If they only played each other twice, and so there's a lot less fixtures in the season, how much do you think it'd hurt the revenue of the clubs? Do you think we'd get bigger crowds because there'll be less games? I always go back to 96, 97 when Super League started. There weren't as many teams, were there? What was it, like 10 or 12 teams or something?
There were. I mean,
but crowds seem to be bigger back then.
Yeah, and I think, potentially it's worth looking at because, we've got a really long season now.
Yeah,
but there's those few weeks at the start of the season where it's still cold, wet and miserable and sometimes a bit of a non-starter. And I'm sure everyone's excited to get to the season.
Well, it's cold, wet and miserable at the start of the season. It's cold, wet and miserable at the end of the season. And
Can we condense it?
Yeah, I think it needs condensing. Genuinely, I think we have too many games. And you made a point earlier when you were making a coffee.
Did I?
Player welfare.
Yeah.
Is there too many games? If you had more internationals, majority of players won't be playing. I think we'd see bigger crowds. I genuinely think we'd see bigger crowds.
Well, all that has a knock on to total revenue then, doesn't it, as well? So we're sort of saying that, the clubs are not creating space for these internationals so they keep hold of the revenue. If you start shortening the season,
yes,
you're reducing the revenue. So...
the revenue would then go directly to the RFL, wouldn't it? Who host who host the internationals, who could then distribute it to the locals. I am led to believe that internationals do still make a profit for the RFL. So, yeah, less Super League, more international. I'm sticking with that. Williams Weekly then, tackle 6.
Yeah, so following on from all the stories this week, I just wanted to pose the question that, what is the negative effect that social media has on the modern day Super League game? So we did a bit of digging around and kind of made a few notes and all that kind of thing. And there's a few aspects where it's very obviously affecting Super League, Rugby League at the highest level. Of course, there's loads of positives in regards to distribution, engagement, exposure, all this kind of thing, but I think there's been some negatives as well. So what do you think, Karl?
Well, should we go through you've put 6 points down here, haven't you?
Just different categories that I think has an effect.
Go through them one by one. So the first point you've made is player mental health and well-being. Cyberbullying and abuse. Players often subject to negative comments and harassment. So obviously that's a negative. But you don't have to be on social media. It's completely up to you.
No, you don't. And Jamie Jones Buchanan's not on social media at all.
I bet he is.
No, he's not. He tells us.
But I bet he is.
Why?
I bet he's under a different name.
You reckon?
Yeah, 100%. I'm telling you, I bet he is.
I don't know if he is.
I bet he is.
I have a source very close to the... but I don't know. Yeah, you're right. You don't have to be on there. But I think, modern day society, raising your personal profile, everyone's got a personal brand. I think, a lot of players are on there because they are influential. But, and this is very different. Like, I think what happened in the changing rooms with the picture and all that that's very different from like a gang of people like making your life hell online. Do you know what I mean? And this is the kind of cyberbullying thing. And
we actually sat in on a media brief, didn't we? An RFL media brief with England wheelchair side. Andy Wilson was doing it. He did. He basically said that to the players, he was sort of
encouraged them,
but to be themselves. And if they're not comfortable with social media, then don't do it. But
and also all that brings a pressure to perform, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Because now, like, people they can speak to you directly through your social media channels, and that's not. It's not something I ever had to worry about. But I imagine being like a player where if you had a terrible game and then you're just getting slated because people have a direct channel onto your feed and your family in some cases, So there's definitely a pressure there, and that's going to affect people's mental health.
That's a huge negative, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
I can't really. There's nothing I can say positive about that. That is a huge negative of social media. But that is the world we live in, isn't it?
It is. Next one is
keyboard warriors.
Absolute trolls and keyboard warriors, And next one is like distraction and focus. Like, you talked about being professional and professionalism, and one of those things is like when everyone else is going, pissing up, like you're professional, you're acting like a professional, and you're missing out on things now because you have a career in professional sport. And however, this social media is a distraction and reduces focus. Do you know a stat that I heard this week? That the average TikTok user, my thoughts on TikTok, Karl. The average TikTok user...
You're on TikTok, you are, mate.
Not as a person, I'm not. As a brand I am. Well, not as a person. So the average TikTok user scrolls with their thumb the height of the Eiffel Tower every week.
Flipping heck.
Exactly. So, how long is that going to take? Do you know what I mean? Like, how much time have you wasted doing that? It just blows my mind. Anyway, so distraction.
Yeah, so our TikTok followers just took a nosedive there. 100% clipping that and getting that on this week.
Next one then, misinformation and rumours. So, we know all about this, Karl, don't we?
Social media can be a breeding ground for rumours and misinformation, and it can also be a damage to your reputation, false allegations. Yeah, so we only got to look at what's gone on Twitter this week, what we've just been talking about in League One.
Yeah.
There's no actual proof that any of that actually... the image, and there's no proof that actually happened. Someone could Photoshop that, and there's, like, say, rumours spread like wildfire on Twitter. Yeah. You've only got to look at the. I don't know if I should really bring this up, but the lad that's gone missing in
Tenerife later,
in Tenerife. You've gone on Twitter. There's not that many stories about that.
Yeah,
and you've got to say probably 90% of them aren't true. So it's. In the rugby league world, it probably happens. 100% it happens.
Okay, next one is like privacy. We've mentioned family and stuff like that before, but just an absolute invasion of privacy. You've got to be really careful what you post online. You know what I mean? It only takes the fact that you post... In fact, weren't there a case with footballers where... They were like away, playing away, and then someone broke into their house when they was at home because they knew they were on a training camp and nicked a load of jewelry. There was like a Russian, or some Eastern European gang was targeting, privacy concerns is another one.
Yeah, and then you've got also a fan behaviour and toxicity. So like similar sort of thing in it. Anonymity on social media can lead to toxic behaviour amongst fans. So like we've spoke about keyboard warriors, they kind of feel like they can say whatever they want, don't they? Because it's an open forum. So it is. I do think it's probably damaging to players. We need to speak to some players, really, don't we? Who have been sort of harmed by this, I suppose.
Not just players. I mean, like coaches as well. Like, you look at Ian Watson. The story that broke this week is that he said that Huddersfield's not the team that he thought he was when he took the job. You know, and that now has been embellished and spoke about and all. And you know, it has an effect on dynamic. You know, the final point there is like team dynamics, but across the board. Ken Davey putting out a statement saying, you know, it's not good enough, and people then going, you know, they take the inference then, oh, all right, he's going to get sacked.
Yeah.
You know, so the dynamic just gets messed about, and I bet they do feel the pressure there. So it's definitely some negatives from social media.
Yeah, when we go through those points that we've just gone through, there seems to be more negatives than there does positives. Well,
I don't know about that. I mean, there is a case for like.
I mean, the positives are that you get an insight into a player. I think that's huge. We never used to have that before. When a professional rugby player everything was sort of behind closed doors. Wasn't it? Now cameras are going in. Now you get to see the life of a player more than you ever have done. So yeah, there is some positives about it, but there's a hell of a lot of negatives.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of positives as well. One real times or real life kind of example of that is, remember, like I used to watch Harry Smith and I was like, well, you know, I'm a bit give or take with Harry Smith. We then listened to him in a press conference, you know, which went out on social media, and I really bought into him as a player. I thought, you know, he's a real, and I don't know why. I don't suppose I questioned it, but I don't know why I'd formed this opinion that I can take or leave him.
Because it were Wigan, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, he played for England, and I'm like, well, I don't really know. But then when you hear his thoughts and you hear what's going on, and there was a clip going out, you know, where Sean Wayne was saying, look, you know, just do whatever you did when you was 12 and 13, you know.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Brilliant that was.
Yeah, exactly. So,
that.
You know, all that helps us to invest in players, and the teams are made up of players, and the sport is made up of teams, and if we can invest in those base levels more, then we can invest in our sport more, and it makes more entertainment. So I think there's massive positives, but it doesn't come without the inverse of all that. So players have got to be tough-skinned. Back to my original point, you know what I mean? Apply a bit of professionalism, like you said, and then just be a little bit tough-skinned, because you're going to get it, you know? Yeah. I get it in business. You'll get it because of your haircuts and that. So you've just got to take it, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it's time to wrap up.
Okay, a little bit of a look forward then, Karl.
Grub Cup
this weekend.
Don't get any bigger than that, does it?
No.
If you want to know all about the Grub Cup, scroll back through our YouTube channel, and there's the history of the Grub Cup is Leamington versus Telford. Many say it's the biggest rivalry in Midlands Rugby League. Right. What do you say, Craig?
No, I completely agree. It's definitely up there.
Yeah, I think Grub Gattenby's already been trash talking. So
has it?
Yeah, it's been an interesting game this week. Telford versus Leamington Royals. See who takes the silverware this year of the Grub Cup.
Here's a question for you. Since your retirement as the Grub
captain.
Yeah, chief Grub at Raiders, has it lost its allure, the Grub Cup, or do you think it's that legendary that it's just solid? It's here to stay.
I think it's here to stay, to be honest with you. I think it's just somewhat tongue-in-cheek, in all honesty. And they love a good party at Leamington, so I hope they're playing on it and you get plenty of people get down to watch it.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, anything else going on with the podcast?
Well, this could well be, Craig, our last episode
in this studio
live from Bridge North.
Yeah.
So hopefully, as of next week, we'll be in our new studio, coming live from Wolverhampton.
Live? We're going to do a live, are we?
We might do.
All right.
Live opening.
Okay, so I hope, as always, you've enjoyed these stories that we brought to you and the little bits of news. If you've got any comments, then please stick them down below. And until next time, take care.